Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Night Coder, and today I'll be solving a new problem. And the problem is counting digits in a number. So without any delay, let's get into the video. So before we actually get into coding or we actually start writing our program, first we'll find a solution together. Basically, outlining our program to know what we want and how will we do it, so we can find a simple solution for it. So let's get started. So here, the first question which we're going to be asking is what we want. Well, we want our program that it should be able to count the digits present in a number. Next, now the inputs and how. Like basically what are the inputs we need to give so that our program can perform a specific task. So here first we will be needing an integer which will be which we can either input or we can hard code depending on a user's choice or a programmer's choice. Next, a counter variable. We will be needing a counter variable or a live variable. So this variable will essentially be used to keep track of our iterations, that how many iterations do we have to perform in a specific number, so that we could get the final output, that how many digits are actually present in it. And if you don't understand it now, don't worry. As we move along the further video, and when we dry run a sample test case, you will understand it. Next, as I mentioned before, we need a counter variable which will keep a track of our iterations, and that basically means we will be doing a series of tasks which has to be repeated multiple amount of times. So in programming, generally if we want to repeat a multiple amount of tasks, we use the concept of loops. So here we'll be using a while loop, specifically a while loop. Well, you might ask, why are we using a while loop here? Because if you look at our previous problems like the factorial or sum of n natural numbers, we used a for loop. Well, the difference is in this program, we will not actually know in advance how many iterations or how many times do we have to repeat a specific task. Basically, a number if we enter, that can be a length from 3-digit like 100 to can go up to 6 figures like 100,000 or even a million like 7 figures. So here we have no idea how are we going to perform. So that's why we'll be using a while loop where the core logic will be to keep on repeating the task until unless a specific condition is true. Yeah. So now next, here we will discuss the logic. So first, let's take our integer 1234 or 1234, and let's name it variable n. So if we actually look at this number, we can see there are already 4 digits. But I mean, as humans, we can count it. But for a program or for layman term, how to actually get this count the number of digits, we can do this by dividing it by 10. So we will keep on dividing it by 10 until unless we get the value 0. If we get the value 0, which is a decimal 0 point something, which basically means that's the end of our digit, and that last iteration can be our updated count value, and we can print it. And make notice, whenever we divide it by 10, it will be a float number. But as we're using an integer, so Java will just ignore the numbers after the decimal, and will just keep the actual length of the number and keep on dividing it until unless we reach the specific condition. So let's do it. So here in our first iteration, as I mentioned before, we keep dividing it by 10. So at our first iteration, when we divide it by 10, we get 123.4. But as it's an integer data type, Java will just ignore the number after the decimal, so it will be 123. So we'll have still 3 digits remaining. And here the new value will be updated, 123.4, the new value of n, and at the iteration 1, and we have carried our first iteration, that will be updated in the counter variable. Next, moving on to our second iteration, we repeat the same process. That will be 12.34. The new value will be updated on n, and the second iteration will be updated in the count variable. And again, we do it, it will be 1.234. Again, the new value is updated at n, and the new iteration is updated in the count variable. And then lastly, here we can see here we have divided again, and we have got 0.1234, which is basically 0. And again, this new value will be updated in n, and this last iteration 4 will be updated in count. Now here it will stop at 0.1234 because we will set a condition such that our n value should be greater than 0. If it's so as it reaches 0, that will be a last iteration, and that will be used as our that specific number of iteration will be used as a count variable, and that will print the value of count, which will be 4. Okay, so now let's use the same logic and apply this in our program. So here I'll make my new file, let's keep it count.java, and yep, let's start it. I'll first import my utilities library. And here I go. And I'll do the input label. And here int n. I'll name this variable n, which where we're going to put our number. It's going to be named n. So sc.next c is going to be int. Yes. And now my count variable, which will be 0, as it will start counting from the first digit, so we'll make it 0. And here we'll be using a while loop, as I mentioned before. So while, and now we have to keep a condition here. So a condition where basically if our number reaches 0, it should stop the loop, and it should print the final value of the iteration and give the answer. So I'll keep it n is greater than 0, and after n is greater than 0, I will give here the answer. So give here n. We'll keep on dividing, so it will be n over n by 10, and count plus plus. So basically here I'll be so here my n value will be updated with the iteration how much ever I divided by how much ever until I divide by 10, until we reach 0, and then I can print my final answer, which we want as output. That will be count, and count will be used to calculate the number of times we have divided that number to reach the value of 0. So here I'm going to test run it. So here's the number. I'm going to put 1 2 3 4. So, and yes, the answer is 4. So that's how we got it. Okay, so for now the program seems to work, and it's giving us the desired output we want, but we can tweak it a little bit more. Like, for example, if I'm adding a negative integer here, it's giving me 0. Or if I'm adding 0 here, it's giving me 0 again. Because if we add 0 here, it's still counted as one digit, because if I put just my input as 0, it still counts as 1 digit. So we can do that. So for that we can we can use a condition. If condition can be used here. So it will be if and is equal to, oops, oh, I use the curly braces. Is equal to 0, and we can put here count is equal to 1. Or we can put here shoot, we can put here count is equal to we can do it print f one. So yes, we can get this condition will work, I guess. So if I put here 0, should be 0. Okay, it's giving 11 because I've already given count here again, so I'll just comment it for now. It can be here 0. Yes. Wait, if I give here again, it should be 1. 0. It's giving 1. It's giving here, yeah, it's giving here 1. So yes, this is giving here 1. And now if I want to print it for, but here as I've commented the previous one, so it won't work, because if I put here 2 3, it will not give anything because I've commented the values. So for this we have to use the if condition. We have to use the else condition, I'm sorry, else condition. So here I go, and yes, that should work. And now if I do this, one, two, three, 4, we're getting 4. And if I do here 0, we're getting 1. So yes, it's working. Or just to put a label here too, I can do this as I did in my previous with 0 condition. I can put here count %d and yes, this should be perfect. It will be, I'll just clear it, I'll just do a fresh run. 1 2 3 4, yes, and one more, it will be 0. Here it works. But again, we are still left with one problem, the negative values. So it should, so here we so to solve this problem we can actually, because we are just counting the number, counting the value, the number of digits for positive integers. So for here we can use a different function, which or we can use under condition where it doesn't allow. We can use a do while loop, or yeah, a do while loop can work here nicely. So again, we can put here in the integer do. Yes, so here we can do this. I'm going to use a do while loop so we can handle our input cases. And while n is less than 0, if this condition is true, it will keep on asking the input again and again here, and I'll just declare this the global scope. Yes, this should work now. So if I give here my, let's start. So let's start with 45,768, which is 5 digits. Yes, and if I run it again, let's say I put 0, 1 digit, and if I enter here -12, it's again asking. Yes, that's what we want. -34, -45,768, it's still asking. So 234, and we get our value 3. So that is it. So this is how we solve the problem, finding a number of digits in a number. So if you like this video, please throw a thumbs up and please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.